The Gaza Strip finds itself teetering on the precipice of renewed conflict. Israel has issued a stark ultimatum: release the Israeli captives or face the consequences of renewed military action. This demand has cast a pall over the region, shattering the fragile peace established only a month ago. The ceasefire, once a beacon of hope, now appears worryingly precarious. Hamas, the de facto governing authority in Gaza, has responded with a mix of defiance and a commitment to the ceasefire agreement. They accuse Israel of violating the terms of the truce through their ongoing blockade and military posturing. Hamas insists that the release of captives can only be negotiated if Israel fully honors the ceasefire. The situation is further complicated by the volatile rhetoric employed by both Israeli and American officials. Their threats have fueled anxiety amongst the people of Gaza, who have endured unimaginable suffering during the recent conflict. The echoes of past violence reverberate through the streets, amplifying the sense of dread and uncertainty. As the clock ticks down to Israel's deadline, the international community watches with bated breath. The possibility of renewed violence in Gaza has sparked widespread condemnation, with many fearing a humanitarian catastrophe. The world waits and hopes for a peaceful resolution, but the shadow of conflict looms large. The streets of Gaza, recently bustling with returning families, are once again filled with fear and trepidation. The Israeli ultimatum has cast a dark cloud over the Strip, leaving residents bracing for the worst. Many fear a return to the relentless bombardment and destruction that characterized the recent conflict. For those who have recently returned to their homes in northern Gaza, the threat of renewed fighting is particularly terrifying. Having just begun the arduous task of rebuilding their lives, they face the prospect of displacement and further suffering. The trauma of the past year weighs heavily on their minds. Adding to the anxiety is the fear that Israel may exploit the current situation to further its territorial ambitions. Some fear a repeat of previous incursions, with Israel potentially seizing control of the strategic Netzarim corridor or pushing deeper into densely populated areas. The humanitarian situation in Gaza remains dire, with access to essential resources like food, water, and medicine severely limited. The prospect of renewed conflict only amplifies these challenges, raising the specter of a full-blown humanitarian crisis. The current tension in Gaza cannot be viewed in isolation. It unfolds against the backdrop of a devastating 15-month Israeli offensive that has left an indelible mark on the Strip. The sheer scale of destruction and loss of life serves as a stark reminder of the human cost of conflict. According to official figures, the recent fighting resulted in the deaths of over 48,000 Palestinians, with over 111,000 injured. The true death toll may be even higher, with thousands still missing and presumed dead. These numbers paint a grim picture of the suffering endured by the people of Gaza. Beyond the immediate casualties, the offensive has left Gaza's infrastructure in ruins. Homes, schools, hospitals, and vital infrastructure lie in rubble, testament to the indiscriminate nature of the bombardment. The psychological scars of the conflict run deep, affecting entire generations. The international community has condemned the scale of destruction in Gaza, with many calling for investigations into potential war crimes. The recent threats by Israeli and U.S. officials have only served to exacerbate concerns about accountability and justice for the victims. The international community is watching the escalating situation in Gaza with growing concern. The possibility of renewed fighting has drawn widespread condemnation, with many nations calling for restraint and a de-escalation of tensions. The focus has shifted to finding a peaceful resolution that addresses the concerns of both sides. The threats made by Israeli and U.S. officials have been met with particular censure. Many see them as inflammatory and counterproductive, undermining efforts to secure a lasting peace. The international community has urged all parties to engage in dialogue and diplomacy to prevent further bloodshed. As the deadline for the release of the captives approaches, the potential outcomes remain uncertain. The best-case scenario involves a last-minute diplomatic breakthrough, with both sides agreeing to de-escalate and return to the negotiating table. However, the possibility of renewed conflict remains a very real and terrifying prospect. Should fighting resume, the consequences for the people of Gaza would be catastrophic. Another round of violence would undoubtedly result in further death, displacement, and destruction. The international community is urging all parties to prioritize the safety and well-being of civilians and to work towards a peaceful resolution to this long-standing conflict.